Welcome back. So, today we are going to be discussing a very interesting squad, the Guretsu Paratroopers of the Taishin Division. So, they're one of the original premium squads with Japan. They've been around since way before the merge, and I kind of like them. Let's get into it. So, the Guretsu Paratroopers were an airlifted special forces unit formed from Army paratroopers. It was formed in November of 1944 as an attempt to reduce and delay Allied bombing raids on Japanese home islands, and they were sent to Okinawa in 44 to fight against Allied forces in Operation Gigo. So, what are they? What do they come with? What's so special about them? They are a 5-man assault squad, 1 engineer, 4 assaulters, and they come with the Type 1 submachine gun, which they can call it a submachine gun, I just don't agree. This is a PDW before PDWs were a thing. Now, that being said, it shoots the 8mm Nambu. It has a fire rate of 500. It does 5.6 damage. Actually, I think I'm looking at the low stats because they still haven't synced this up. So let's look at it on one of my paratrooper. They don't jump out of planes, they're assaulters, but you know what I mean. Anyway, at 10 meters it does 6.7 damage. At 100 it does 3.9. Fire rate of 570, reload time of 2.9. It's a little bit long, but there's a good reason for that. We'll get to that in a second. It has vertical recoil of 21, horizontal of 12, and get this, it has a 50-round magazine. It weighs 4.3 kilos, and it can fire auto, auto-slow, and semi-auto. In general, it is a very good submachine gun. Now, even though it has auto-slow, I have never once used auto-slow on it. 570 rounds a minute, it's pretty much shooting at the rate of an MP40. I don't really think that there's a need to slow it down, but if you're trying to take really long-range shots with it, you could put it on auto-slow and you might be a little bit more stable. That being said, 21x12 recoil is inherently very stable, so I'm not sure that it really matters. Now, starting off, if you've seen some of my recent videos discussing premium squads, then you know what I think of premium assault squads, but to briefly summarize it, they're in the upper half of value for premium squads, but there's a caveat there, like they're valuable. They're very good, especially if you're grinding a tech tree. They are phenomenal. The problem there is that you will always power creep them when you complete parts of your tech tree. And it really just depends on the individual squad and the individual tech tree as to when that happens. And so, in the Japanese tech tree, you could make an argument that you've power crept them at BR2 when you get the MP28 7.65, but if you haven't power crept them there, then they are absolutely going to be power crept when you get the Type 2 submachine gun at BR4. That being said, as a grinder, they're awesome. If you're trying to make a premium lineup, then they make an awesome second premium squad to the half track, and they compete pretty well with the other lower BR premium squad with the Type 100 SMGs. So, they're a 5-man assault squad, 1 engineer, 4 assaulters. With a normal tech tree assault squad, you can get very similar feedback, or you can get a very similar squad. So, for example, I have one of my assault squads here they have 4 assaulters, they have a medic, they have a light machine gunner, and they have an engineer. So what you're getting there, you're still getting 5 guys with submachine guns, but you're also getting 2 more guys for a 7-man squad. One of them's got a light machine gun, one of them's got a rifle, but you're still getting the engineer. The point here is that eventually you're going to hit a point where you have better things to use in your tech tree. Whether that outweighs the premium bonuses that they give you is up to you. So like, I think at BR2, when you get the MP28 7.65, it probably doesn't happen there, because you still have a ton of tech tree to grind out, and getting the premium bonuses is probably more valuable to you. I think by the time that you reach BR4 and you get the Type 2 though, I think it has happened there. Now that being said, how do they actually perform? Well, I think that they're very good. They're very competitive with some of their alternatives. Having a 50-round magazine is fantastic. It allows them to play very comfortably at BR3, BR4, BR2, BR1, because at BR3, remember, you can go up, you can go down. The chief downside here is that they're BR3, which means if you haven't yet made it to BR3, you're going to see the whole spectrum of matches, whether it's BR1, BR2, BR3, BR4, BR5. I actually don't think that that's a huge drawback with Japan, though, and there are 2 reasons for that. Number 1, I think the difference between Tier 1 and Tier 4 for Japan really is not that big. I think most of the things that are in Tier 4 Japan could be Tier 3. I think the only things that stick out to me as being good enough to actually merit being in Tier 4 are the flamethrower, because every second rank flamethrower is in Tier 4, and the Tokyo Arsenal SMG. But outside of that, none of their tanks, none of their planes, none of that, I think, merits being in BR4. You could make an argument for the Key 61. That being said, they're also fighting against the Americans, and the Americans, while they can be powerful, I think most of your equipment is good enough that it's not an issue. Like, the Americans have harder hitting SMGs, but yours are much more controllable, and you don't have to reload as often as they do, so it's an advantage. Your light machine guns, once you get to the Type 96 and Type 99, are very comparable. So, across the board, if you do have to play up between you and your teammates, you'll be very competitive. Like, the Type 1 SMG here, I think it's very similar to the Type 2. Its recoil is different, but the Type 1 and the Type 2 feel very similar, and the Type 2 clearly is a successor to the Type 1. Which is to say that this is a BR3 weapon that plays like a BR4 weapon. I could have probably just said that from the beginning. Now, if you compare it to its chief competitor, the Type 100 paratrooper squad, they're getting a gun that holds 30 rounds. It's 2411 for its vertical horizontal, reloads in 2.2 seconds, shoots at 520 rounds a minute. So it's similar. It's a little bit more stable, but it's like very, very slightly. And it has less ammo and it reloads a little bit faster, right? But the thing with them is that they're a BR1 squad. So if you're looking to stay in low BR and play BR1 and 2, then your only real choice is the Type 100 paratrooper squad. But that being said, if playing up is not an issue for you, then I think the Type 1 squad might actually be the better squad. They're not medics, so they're going to probably have better perks. I haven't looked at their perk disposition like 1-to-1 next to each other, but let's see, 19, 13, 22 to 11, 20, 20. So they're just different from each other. I think the two of them are side grades to each other. So back in the day when Japan first released, both of these were kind of at the same level. And that's because we didn't have a BR system back then, and so I used them both side by side. I don't think one of them is better than the other. These days, I think I would, for, a normal, not Japan nation, go towards the lower BR option. But actually with Japan has a lot of really dedicated players that are very good at the game, and a lot of them play at BR4. So in my experience, you get better teams and better matchmaking because of that if you play up. So I would personally take the Type 1 SMG squad over the Type 100 squad, but if you wanted to get both and play both of them together, I think both of them can play in BR 1, 2, 3, and 4 without trouble, because that's what I do with them, to be honest. Like, I bring both squads into BR 4 games, and I play both of them, and I have no issue running either of them. So, I compared it before to the Type 2 SMG, which is basically its successor. I don't have them fully maxed out yet, but to give you their rank 1 stats before they're upgraded, they shoot at 600 rounds a minute, so they probably go up to 660. They hit for 5.6 at 10 meters and 3.2 at 100 meters, so they're probably doing the same damage as the Type 1. The reload is a little bit quicker at 2.6. This is where they really are better, though. Their vertical and horizontal are 10, both of them. It also has a 50-round magazine. It weighs a little bit less at 3.4 kilos, and it also has auto slow, and semi-auto. This is why I said once you reach this gun, you've been power crept. But that being said, if you look at the MP28, that's around the same BR. It's BR2 to your BR3. It's hitting for 6.6 damage. This is on a fully upgraded one, mind you. And 3.3 at 100. It fires at 550 rounds a minute. It reloads in 3.2 seconds, 19 by 10 recoil, 50 round mag, and it only fires full auto. And it's a little bit heavier at 5.4 kilos. So, what you're gaining with your Type 1, you're gaining a teensy bit of fire rate over it, and you're losing a little bit of fire rate to the Type 2. You're gaining a little bit of reload over the MP28, and you're losing a little bit to the Type 2. Both of them have better recoil than you, but admittedly, 21 vertical recoil is not very bad. You have the same magazine as both of them. The weight just goes down from BR2 to BR3 to BR4, and you have better fire modes over the MP28, but you have worse fire modes, or not worse, you have the same fire modes as the Type 2. So it fits in between them very nicely. I think it's a good gun. I really have no complaints. I think it competes very strongly with the other Japanese submachine guns, but the problem with comparing Japanese submachine guns is I honestly believe you can pick any submachine gun in the Japanese tech tree, play it at any BR, and you can have a good time. And because of that, it makes comparing them like nitpicking, basically. It's just which stats do you prefer? I honestly think you can take any submachine gun in the Japanese tech tree. So let's look at their outfitting and their perks. So I have my squad leader, as I do with all of my Japanese squads, with a katana. He is the engineer, but you could move him around and give him a shovel and then make one of your assaulters your squad leader if you want to be a cool cat like me and carry around a katana on all your squad leaders. They all have Type 14 pistols, but you could outfit them with whatever pistol you wanted to. I think they all do just fine. I think it's worth having any pistol over not having a pistol. I just kind of like the way the Type 14 looks, but the Type 94 is fine. I have them with the large backpacks that they came with, and because of that I have them with 4 medkits. You could swap their backpacks for ammo, and to be honest, it might not be a bad idea. They do have 50 round magazines, but you're 50 by 100, so you're getting a couple reloads. You do have a decent amount of ammo. Sometimes I wish I had more. And I have the engineer, so I often do just build ammo boxes, but sometimes I just wish that I was carrying more ammo. That being said, I really like being able to heal repeatedly, so it is what it is. They're basically side grades to each other. Pick whatever you feel is best. The rest of them all have their normal knife. They all have AP mines except for the last assaulter. He has a TNT charge. They all have flasks. They all have explosive packs except for the guy with the TNT charge. He has a normal grenade. Now, as for their perks, they are 19 mobility, 13 vitality, and 22 weapon handling. The way that I have them set up, and I have not used their reroll, and honestly it might not be a bad idea to use their reroll, but they have 2 points in jump height, which I don't really care for, but you know, it is what it is. Then I've got 3 points in medpack usage speed and 2 in run speed. That's kind of my preferred setup for mobility. As long as I have those 5 perks there, I'm happy. I don't really care too much about everything else in mobility. As far as vitality, they only have 13 points, so they can't take vitality, which is a shame. But what you get instead is the ability to throw 2 points into health restored by medpack, so they can get a ton of health back just by using their medpack. Couple that with the faster medpack usage speed, and it makes them very, very hard to put down, because if you get shot, you duck into cover, and you're at full health again. In addition to that, I've got 2 points into stamina, and then in the first tier, I've got 1 point into health regen, and they come by default with plus 35% stamina. So these guys can run for miles. In addition to that, in weapon handling, I have nothing in the tier 1 perks. In tier 2, I've got 2 points in vertical recoil reduction, and then they came with horizontal recoil reduction. To be entirely honest, I think horizontal is a miss on them. I think you'd be better off dropping horizontal and instead picking up reload speed and more vertical. The gun doesn't really climb a whole lot, even with 2 points. Like, you probably don't need more than 2 points, but if I had extra perk points, I would take 2 in reload, and then I'd probably throw the rest into recoil, just because I don't think the other perks and weapon handling really matter. And at that point, your gun probably wouldn't move even if you just took your hand off your controller and just held down the trigger. And that's pretty much the setup that I have for all of them. That was on the engineer, but that's the setup that I have for all of them. So, let me know, are they a squad that you have? Are they a squad that you're looking at picking up? They're a relatively old squad, so they'll probably be available in sales. If you're choosing between these guys and the other squads, my first recommendation has to be the half-track. I think that it just brings more value than anything else. As far as this and the other squad, it's really just a choice of, do you want to play up or do you not want to play up? If you're okay with playing at BR3 and up, I think these guys are a fantastic choice. If you absolutely do not want to see anything BR4, then you really only have one other option, and that's the other paratrooper squad, which we'll probably make a video talking about them as well later on, but we'll get to it when we get to it. I guess the only final thing is their uniform. I actually really like the way these guys look. They have these like camo outfits. It's like pants and a jacket, and it's kind of subtle. The like it's basically slightly darker green on like washed out green, and I actually think it looks pretty good. They also come with little hats, but you could, in theory, swap their hats for any of the other options. They might be a decent candidate for getting a helmet. There's a few helmets that actually go fairly decently with the color of their uniform. Um, like there's one that has like a camo, or it's not camo, but it's got like a mesh net on it, and I think that one actually looks really good on them. You could also give them the hats with the red wrap around it, and I think it looks pretty good, because I think they also have little red tabs on their lapels. And the green of the hat kind of matches the darker, well, it's not perfect, but I would go with the helmet if I was going to swap them. Other than that, though, I think they look pretty good. They're one of the better looking Japanese squads. So as per usual, get out there, kick ass, take names, and win your games!